Everybody, welcome to the Blue Collar Built Podcast, a show about two brothers who are sharing their experiences as they're going through it. Hey everybody, I am your host, John, joined by my co-host and youngest brother, Jake.
What up?
This is the Blue Collar Built Podcast. Feel free to stream this anywhere you listen to audio. However, I do want to mention we've had a lot of people asking about it. For whatever reason, our distributor, which is through Spotify, distributes very quietly for some reason. We're looking into it on the other streaming apps. So like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Audible. It's going to be a lot quieter than it actually is on Spotify itself. We're also on YouTube with video. No issues there. So I got to kind of dive into that. I think it has something to do with the other places restrictions, but we're going to see. So
Spotify's our home anyway.
Spotify is our home. Like I said, that's the best audio. It's perfect. Otherwise, if you do listen to the other ones, don't be surprised if you got to crank up your volume quite a bit. So, anyways, this week was a good, busy week for us.
We got one project done down on Main Street there.
Yep. We got a commercial city sidewalk done, which is kind of a pain in the ass here. I'll post some pictures. You can kind of see what we were working with. But here in our town a few years ago, they did a downtown restoration project and they put brick ribbons all up in our sidewalks and all this stuff. And it looks great, but when it comes to having to redo this stuff, it's kind of limited as far as what they require for code and all that, but we'll get into that. We prepped another one for on Tuesday, holiday weekend, so we aren't working Monday. Got some stuff coming up. Hopefully next weekend we'll have some good news to talk about a couple jobs we got bid out that I'm really excited for, but we'll wait to hear from those. So if you've been following along, Jake and I pour concrete. I have a concrete company. We do flat work, and we like to work with our hands. So that's what we do. So what's new with you?
Not much. As you can see, I got my golf tire on, so I'm going golfing after this.
You're going to go golfing? There you go.
Hopefully shoot low.
Yeah.
Yeah, partied yesterday pretty much all day. It was crazy. We started out as a brunch.
Oh, yeah?
And I didn't leave there till 9:30 at night. So
shit got a little crazy, huh?
I paced myself really good, but I mean, when you're just like catching all those sun rays, and I probably had like 10 beers from 11:30 to like 9:30. So I mean,
oh yeah, that's not
pretty
bad.
Good pace.
That would knock me out.
That's a good pace.
That is a good pace.
And I brought my water jug, so I was drinking water. But I mean, I got horrible sleep last night.
Oh really?
I think my sleep score was like 40 on my watch.
Ooh, rough.
Which it's not good.
No, that's not good.
I was waking up to go to the bathroom like every half hour, man.
That'll do it. You're getting old. Yeah. You got that old man bladder.
Well, I just have the alcohol bladder, man. When I just drink alcohol, like it
just runs right through.
Just goes through. Yeah.
Wild. So yeah, we worked on this project this week. It's 44 foot long, about 12 feet wide, but 16 inches of that's this brick ribbon. And one topic that Jake and I just couldn't let go this whole week was what's required as far as city code for that is so ridiculous. Essentially what you have to do is you have to pull up all this brick ribbon, and if you're watching video, you saw the pictures, so you saw what we had to do. But you pull up all the brick ribbon, there's a little 6-inch footing underneath all that. And it has to be tied into the sidewalk, which isn't a problem by any means. The problem is this brick has to be relayed, and it's a specific brick. You can't just go to Menards and buy a new paver.
Manufactured out of Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, manufactured out of Pennsylvania. And then on top of that, this company that you have to get them from has a minimum order. So I can't order like 5 brick and have them coming.
Yeah.
And the other issue with that is it's not like I could call them up on a Monday and have them here by Friday, right? That's not how something like that works. Yeah. So anyways, it's a little frustrating because then on top of that, what upsets us the most is that we have to charge these businesses for something that wasn't there doing.
Yeah, they didn't ask for the brick ribbon to be put in their
They didn't choose
sidewalk.
that to be the front of that. And in our
Mhm.
municipality, the city right away is obviously has to be up to code, which I understand that side, right?
Yeah.
Like there has to be some accountability.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, this is a, a large enough difference to deal with the brick and work with the footing. There's more cost that's incurred doing that than there would be just pouring the sidewalk
Yeah.
all the way to the curb.
Yeah.
The businesses don't choose that, so they shouldn't have to pay for that. And that's coming from somebody who makes money off of that. I
Yeah.
don't agree with that by any means.
Mm.
And it's just hard, but the thing, we've done 2 of these now. We did one last year.
Yeah, I mean we're fine with it. It's just it takes more time. You got to be a little bit more diligent
Yeah,
with
and
the brick.
doing the work isn't the problem. The frustrating part is the fact that you have to charge these people more money than what that should require.
Not to mention you go through all this hard work and we made it look real nice down there. If you look at the pictures, that brick is going to fucking pop up again. It's going to happen.
Of course.
And there's nothing we can do about it.
We live in the Midwest. There's frost. It's right by the street, so it catches all of that grime from the snow that has salt in it. They get deteriorated. The problem that we have is there was no forethought to this. When they were doing that, they think about the current and how it's going to look. They don't think about what's this going to be like when we have to replace all this, because there's miles of this in our downtown.
See, they don't think about that because you said we replace all this. They don't have to replace all of it.
No,
the businesses have to replace all of it,
and they pawn that off, and it's super frustrating because, like I said, there would be it could help make us more efficient. We could probably cut a day or a day and a half off of and get to somebody else with work, which is important. When you have a busy schedule, you want to get to people in a timely manner. But outside of that, I mean, we'll do what's required, but just the costs that these businesses have to incur, it's such a surprise too, because every business I've talked to doesn't understand that.
Yeah.
And then the city, then they call the city, and the city says, yes, that is your responsibility. It's no different than our residential homes here. Like the right of way, if there's a sidewalk and it's right away in front of your house, you're responsible for taking care of that sidewalk. And we heard a story from a guy we're doing a job for. There's a guy he knows is from Canada, where up there they handle all of the municipality, takes care of all the concrete work. And so he moves here, and one of his sidewalks sunk. So he goes down to our municipality, and, he thinks that they're going to take care of it. They send the inspector up and start marking everybody's house in the neighborhood with their bad sidewalks. And it's on the homeowner. It is, isn't it?
That's
like,
horrible.
that's...
I feel bad for that guy because he had no idea.
He had zero idea. Like, obviously he probably felt terrible, but it's like, we don't, some of these things you gotta start kind of making a change for. And I definitely am going to make it a point to address this with our mayor when I see him next, because it's just a little ridiculous, and change has to start somewhere, not,
I completely agree.
It might not go anywhere, but coming from a contractor's standpoint, who, again, like I said, we get paid to fix this. Like, there's no benefit for me to argue against that. But it just seems a little devious from the city's standpoint that we're going to require you to do this, but we aren't going to be able to get you the brick that you need. You got to figure out how to do that. Well, that's great. What happens when I can't get the brick?
Yeah,
exactly. They aren't supplying you. They're requiring you to do something, but then they can't supply you with what they're requiring.
That's the dumbest. Yeah, right. You just said right there is the dumbest thing about all of this is we can't get the brick, and this.
Oh shit!
And the city doesn't have the brick.
Video camera went down.
So, yeah, I think the city should supply you with the brick. If they want those fucking brick ribbons in there, then they should have a pile of brick that these companies, small companies, big companies, can go use for restoration.
Yeah, I mean, the best answer that I got from them was get a hold of this construction company that ended up doing this from the beginning and see if they have any leftover brick. Like that was the answer. And it's like they never called me back.
Yeah.
I called them twice. Never returned any calls.
Yeah, I want to know what happens when they can't get us any brick. Like we have, if we get the next big job where we have to do that brick ribbon.
Yeah.
If there's some in there that we can't use, what do we do?
And that's what parts of me hope that there is. So the next one we have down there potentially has got like 120 feet of brick that's going to need to be replaced. And parts of me hopes that there's like 10 or 20 brick that we just can't use, because I want to go back to the city and go, okay, what do we do? You give me an answer. So I hope that's...
They have to give us an answer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, then we really will. I think we should go talk to somebody, honestly.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna sit here and I don't want to call bitch, but we kind of are bitching about it. We gotta do something proactive.
Exactly. And that's really important. And I think, that kind of takes place in everyday life, which is why we wanted to talk about this, because there's many things I feel like that we bitch about like this, that we could make change for, that restrict us, that hold us back,
Mm-hmm.
Just, kind of one thing that people are listening to, if you don't like something, do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, be proactive on the restrictions in your own life. If you're unhappy with your job, figure out what it is that you're unhappy about. Don't just say, I'm unhappy about this, so I'm just going to whine and hopefully something changes, right? Because that's kind of like the course of what happens in society today, right?
Mm-hmm.
The squeaky wheel gets the oil. If you're loud, you just expect somebody else to take care of it. Well, no, you got to be proactive and change that stuff in your own life,
Yeah, absolutely.
But don't just keep it basic. Like, really sit down and think, am I just unhappy because it's something that I'm doing? Or is it something like what we're running into with the city, where somebody else has something that is requiring me to be this way? And if that's the case, then you can move on.
Yeah.
Like, being employed by somebody else is probably one of the biggest examples, I would say. I hear a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm just unhappy with my job. Okay, what are you unhappy with your job about?
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you talked about that? You made a change. You went through a couple of different things.
2 of them.
Yeah. I mean, and then we aren't talking like you were with these companies for like 5 years. They were short.
No, yeah. I knew what I didn't like.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. It's just easy for me because I'm like, there's no way I'm doing this for the rest of my life. So I'm not going to do it.
Right.
So I don't know. A lot of people may or may not have that, but for me, it's pretty easy. It's like, I'm not going to get caught in a trap because you go around once here. I'm not going to get caught in a trap where I dread the rest of my life because I hate my job.
Right. So,
it's easy for me.
And what about your situations? Did you, like, when you were with the zoo, for instance?
Mm-hmm. That was very tough. That was a tough decision, but
yeah.
Here we are.
Did you kind of have a plan, or did you just kind of see, because I know that kind of hit you in the face kind of pretty quick, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Like, you just realized that this was going to be
well, that's because everything happened so fast. It was like, okay, I'm going to go intern there, not making any money, living with parents.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, we got a job opening. You want to apply for this? Boom, I got the job.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a 3-month span. And then I was in it for probably not even a full year. I don't even think a full year.
Okay.
Actually getting paid at the zoo. But I think it was you that I just knew I wasn't making enough money. That was the biggest thing with the zoo. And it sucks to say because I really liked working there, but I just did not want to have to go to the zoo to work and then go home and then on my off days have another job I had to go to.
Right.
Because all the people I worked with there, they did that. They did that. If you weren't like the head person there, you were basically working 2 jobs unless you had a husband or a wife that was making some
Bringing
serious
a
cash.
separate income. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, all the single people there were, one guy was working at Starbucks and Target on his off days.
Wow.
I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not fucking doing that.
So when you realized that, was that something where you were just like, I'm done and walked away? Or were you like,
It was you, because you're like, well, these people are getting paid. It was money. So at that point, I was focused on money. And you're like, well, these drivers over here, they're making quite a bit. So I was like, and then the wheel started turning.
okay.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I got to get out of this. I got to go make some money.
And I wanted to kind of bring that up because what a lot of people do is they'll just get so frustrated with their current situation that they just drop everything and they're like, I'm done and I'll figure it out. Like, it's either that or you just stay stuck in that repetitive cycle.
Yeah.
Like, if you would have stayed at the zoo because you wanted to make it work, well, shit's never going to work if you do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that could have been an easy trap for me because I've said my whole life I want to work with animals, and there I was.
Yeah.
Right where I wanted to be. And I pulled myself out of it.
Yeah, and that's really important. So, like, when you're gonna try and be proactive and you're gonna try and make that change, start thinking about what you're going to do, but then execute as well. So you kind of have to have a happy medium. You can't just go and execute and quit your job and figure it out. I mean, there's a lot of people who do that. I don't advise that by any means. It'd be like going into the gym and trying to bench press 300 pounds right away because you want to get jacked.
Much risk.
It's too much.
It's too much risk, and I will never just like straight up leave a job.
Right.
There's too much risk there. I'm not a risky person when it comes to money and supporting myself, and there's too much risk.
Yeah, and that's...
So I'd rather just have the suck.
Absolutely.
For the time being,
because at least you
find something else.
You still have a paycheck coming in, right?
Exactly. I would never risk that. Same thing when I left my other job.
Yeah.
I knew I was gonna come work with you, so...
Mm-hmm.
And that was I didn't like that job I was making.
Right.
So it worked out pretty good.
Right.
I learned lessons in both.
Now you have the
I got a nice happy medium.
Nice balance in between there. So, and that's what you just said, I think, is important too. Like, you have to go through some of those, and that's okay. Like, you learn the experience to figure out what you want. Because you might have an idea of what you want for your life, and come to find out you start doing it, and well, that's just not it.
Yeah, you have to know inside yourself if you're happy in your current spot, and if you're not, then you should probably make a change.
Absolutely. And just be proactive. We talked, I rode with a guy down to look at a job about 45 minutes from where we live, and we kind of talked about that because we know a couple people who are what I would say dabbling in being in business, but they don't want to completely pull the trigger to be in business. So they're still working for somebody, but they're bitching about not being able to get their work done because they're working for somebody, let alone their employers give them time off so they can take that time off and go work on their own stuff. But then they turn around and they bitch about not having hours with the employer. And it's like, dude, you can't have both worlds.
No.
Like, figure out what you want to do, make that decision. If it's not for you, and there's nothing wrong with that, then, each step you have to advance in some way, right? So in your case, the money wasn't good. Well, you went to somewhere where the money wasn't good, but the environment wasn't for you.
Right.
So what did you do? Okay, well, I know I need to potentially make around this money. I want a little bit better environment. I'm willing to sacrifice, a little bit of money, but not go back to where you were at the zoo. Like, this is the train of thought that has to take place.
It's exactly what went through my head.
Right. So it's really important when you're making these changes and you're being proactive that you don't go back to one or the other. Always make sure you're sticking to where you want to go. And unfortunately, it doesn't all work out, as cut and dry as what we're making it sound. There's going to be times where you might have to stick it out at that job for another, couple months until something opens up.
If you remember correctly, I did do that.
Right.
Because I wanted out of that motherfucker
a year before
that's
then. Right. That is
so
right.
I stuck it for a full year till you could bring me on.
Yep.
I did
right.
Do that.
So you do. I mean, it's not cut and dry, but the important part is that you make sure that wherever you're at, you are not going back
Mm-hmm.
unless you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of another area. That's kind of career wise. I think that can kind of translate into other things, that can translate into relationships. If you're in a shit relationship, especially if you're in the dating pool and you're kind of figuring out, if you're somebody who's looking for a spouse and you're, don't take this the wrong way, but you're trial and erroring, you're dating, right? Like that's what dating is.
No, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
You're trial and error trying to find somebody that's compatible for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you take notes, right? As a single guy, I mean, I'm sure you're hopefully in the process of doing that, trying to.
Sure, yeah, I haven't quite figured it out yet, but
Right. But
I'm kind of worried about not myself, but I want to be happy with myself first, which I have been for quite some time. So
yeah, and that's smart too, Otherwise, you could end up in.
I've heard this many times. If you can't enjoy your own company being by yourself, then you probably shouldn't be out dating.
That's true. That's a very valid point.
What that holds. I've just heard it.
Huh.
But
I've never heard that.
Yeah, because then you're clingy.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't want to be clingy.
Because you can't stand yourself, so you're attaching yourself to somebody else. Oh, that's very valid.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about it that way. Good little.
There's a lot of people I know that are very clingy.
Oh yeah.
Very clingy.
But no, so like, in your personal life, there's things. Dating is one of them. If you're unhappy with your health or your look, these are things you can be proactive about and change. You just have to realize what works for you. I mean, we've talked about this many times before, but how many times have you and I changed up our workouts to see what works better, what's more efficient, what's getting us better results, what, we don't let these things hinder us and hold us back. You just make a change and be proactive.
Yeah, and that's the trial and error thing, because we may change up our workout, and we may not like it, and we may go back to our old style.
Absolutely.
You're just trying something different, see if you like it.
Yeah. And sometimes like that kind of stuff comes out of sheer boredom. I mean, I wouldn't ever use that excuse in the dating game when you stop dating somebody because you're bored, but when it comes to that kind of stuff, you just get bored. And so you change it up, or, you might find something that works a little better that's getting you, where your own personal goal is for yourself. You might find something that works better for you.
Yeah.
And it's just as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
So, be proactive and make those changes in your life, but don't forget, take note of what you didn't like. And not all of it can be cut and dry, but just as long as you're advancing and making these changes, I think it's a lot better for you.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I got this week. It's holiday weekend. We both got stuff going on, so we're going to keep it kind of shorter this week.
Yes, sir.
You got anything else? All right.
Like, subscribe, YouTube channel.
Yeah.
As always.
Leave us comments. Reach out to us on Facebook and Instagram at the Blue Collar Built Podcast. We love hearing from people. I do like having conversations with people. Feel free to comment on YouTube. We love to respond back and check us out. Let us know what you think. All right, guys. We'll catch you next week.